Oh my God. I've had like 2 pieces of nicotine gum, which I know is too much, 2 coffees, 10 grams of creatine,
You're doing 10 grams of creatine a day?
10 grams of creatine now.
10? Really? Drew, what do you do? You're doing 10 too?
5, but I've been thinking about 10.
Really? I've been doing
Mhm.
5, and I sort of feel like I've actually kind of like maxed out where my muscles are going, so I was thinking of
Mm.
maybe increasing it.
I do it for my brain.
You're both doing it for your mind. Yeah, interesting.
It's kind of confusing that the literature on this. Are we on the air now? Are we
No-
are we going? Welcome to Actual Friends, everybody. The problem with this group is that we start gathering and being friends before the mics heat up. So we thought we'd include you in this conversation. We've already covered what? Estelle Getty's. We've covered creatine, what our proper dosing should be. I learned that Jill's using nicotine gum, which I'm fascinated by. I think nicotine is an underutilized molecule, my dear.
Thank you,
So
thank
good
you.
for you. Good for you.
Appreciate
We can
it.
talk about that another time, but we got
Okay.
so much to get into today. We are actual friends. That is Dave Rubin, Jillian Michaels, myself, Dr. Drew Pinsky. We are here every week and we gather as friends and talk about what's going on in the world. And we're better for it. And we wanted to share it with everybody. So here we are. And today we're starting with a story about the great Sydney Sweeney. What show could we possibly enter into without a jeans commercial? If you remember, I think the first time I was with you guys, we took apart the American Eagles jean commercial that exploded the internet. And now recently, Sydney has been interviewed by what should we say, somewhat hostile reporter. And I'll tell you what, I don't know about
Can
you
I say what
guys.
she is? She's an
Yeah.
angry white liberal with bad genes.
All right, fair enough. And Sydney is I think a conservative, but she certainly has good genes, so to speak, and she wears nice jeans. But her composure was impressive, I thought. And what impressed me the most, I think we're going to watch the video, but maybe we should talk about it beforehand. But what impressed me the most was she wasn't compelled to talk. Many of us feel compelled to answer, compelled to talk, and when they ask questions, she just sat and looked at her. And I thought that is a new move that we all should be adopting. Dave?
You know, it's interesting you bring that up to start because one of the things, like the three of us, we've all been blessed with working with great people over the years, and you can pick up things when you're
Yeah.
with people who have been in it longer than you and are seasoned in different ways and come from
Mm.
different disciplines and all of those things. And one of the things I bring them up almost every week on every show that I do, but from touring with Jordan Peterson, one of the things that I learned is that you can pause and think for a moment. We
Yes.
all do it. We all do it. We're jumpy. And I don't even mean just us as public people, but when you're in a conversation with someone privately, you're looking to figure out where your little way in is and all of those things. And one of the things that I would watch with Jordan all the time, particularly during Q&As, is if I asked him, whether it came from me or from the audience, if I asked him something that really was not just like a generic question that he already had the stock answer for, he would pause. He really
Yeah.
would think it through, and you could feel something happening in the room. So the
Yes.
pause that you're talking about with her, it's very, very powerful because nobody does it anymore. And I would love, if any of us ever got to interview her, I would love to know where that's coming from within her. Because, I don't mean just an actress in that sense, but like, she's just someone who reads other people's lines, who now has been thrown into this crazy chaos. And her calmness and maturity, I think it
Yeah.
goes to why so many people like her. Like, it's not just the big
Yeah.
boobs. Is it, Jillian? Is it just the big boobs?
Well, I like that too.
Those don't hurt. I was going to say that certainly doesn't hurt. I want to give her credit where credit is due. She's a
Mm.
class act. She handled herself brilliantly and she doesn't back down, which I love. Having said that, she's been media trained, guys. I mean, and as she should be. Back in the day when I worked for NBC and I was but a lowly trainer, they didn't trust us to go and do media, which
Sure.
is justifiable. So we would have lessons in how to
Yeah.
handle the media. And they would tell us, and I still make this mistake to this day, when you're done talking, shut up. And what will happen, right, is a technique the interviewer has is to then wait a minute and not say anything so you feel uncomfortable and you continue to ramble and they can catch you. And it
Mhm.
takes all the strength in the world to be like, "Oh," and just sit in that uncomfortable moment as well. And I think that's
Yeah.
really important. I I think everything she's doing is great. I think she's great, and I do think somebody media trained her, and she's
And
adhering to it.
and I think we're going to watch it for a few minutes, but a few seconds. But to your point, Dave, the pausing during public speaking is a well-established benefit to the speaker. Well, it gives you time to think, and people lean in when you're quiet. People feel too often they have to fill. But when you're being interviewed, it's a little different. I got to say, and especially a young person to sit in front of a
Yeah.
reporter that has stature and just kind of go, I don't have to answer every question. If you're going to really be that dumb, I'm just going to sit here and stare back at you. That's
Well,
remarkable to me.
you know what it is? It's almost like because so many of us, and I say this with irony, we all talk for a living, but because we live in this like kind of talk economy,
Yeah.
there's very little mystery anymore to what somebody's thinking, right? Like it's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
out there all the time. And so maybe we could throw to the clip after this, but there's a real moment. And it's also because she really is beautiful and she knows how to like sort of stare through the person where you're really
Mhm.
looking at her like, what the hell are you thinking right now? Like, are you
Yeah.
angry at her? Are you dismissive? Do you care? Do you know who she is? Like, you really can go through this laundry list. Maybe we should take a look.
Let's watch it.
The criticism of the content, which was basically that maybe specifically in this political climate, like white people shouldn't joke about genetic superiority. Like that was kind of like the criticism, broadly speaking. And since you are talking about this, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that specifically.
I think that when I have an issue that I want to speak about, people will hear.
I love it. I love it. This is the most ambiguous possible answer with a hammer.
Right, and that's barely the pause portion of it, but what also is interesting, I think the other reason this thing went viral is because the interviewer, who I don't know her name, but everything about her body language and her
Yeah.
facial expressions and the way she was leaning in, it was as if it was an incredible juxtaposition of what a sort of strong, confident young woman who knows herself would be like, and that's Sydney Sweeney, versus someone who doesn't really know what they're saying or why they're saying it, but is kind of pandering to the machine or whatever you
Oh,
want to call
yeah,
it. She's
for sure.
crumbling under the weight of her own guilt or something.
Yeah.
I think you give her too much credit, Dave. I think she was so excited to try and extract an apology and
Yeah.
have
What
it
is
go
this,
viral
Jillian?
Yeah.
to her benefit.
Yeah.
She's a weasel. She's
Yeah.
a weasel. She's a
It was
journalist
weaselly.
who's
It was weaselly.
opportunistic,
Yep.
trying to play gotcha. And unfortunately, I've walked into that trap quite a few times because you think you're going to prove a point when that's not actually the forum or the arena to do so. And they're going to set you up. Back in martial arts, I swear to God, because that's what this is. This is the art of war. My karate
Jiu-jitsu.
teacher, he used to say to me, he used to have a sword, and there was this one move, like no matter how many times you would try to attack him, you'd end up with your head chopped off. It was a bamboo sword, thankfully. And finally, one day, I was like, hold on a second. I'm not attacking you because you're going to whack me in the head with that sword. And he goes, exactly. There are times when the only way to win is not to play. And this woman was trying to have her moment and get the gotcha and make it all about what a genius journalist she is. And Sydney Sweeney did some Aikido shit, and it was awesome.
Yep. No, that's exactly it. Because when you really look at the interviewer, she's like, "I'm your friend. I'm going to give you a chance to talk about
Yeah.
your racist
Yes.
nonsense and how you're talking about white supremacy," which is, of course, she was doing a jeans ad. She had
Yes.
nothing to do with any of that. She put on a pair of jeans and took pictures.
Do you guys know that Sydney Sweeney also is selling her bathwater? Have you heard about that?
Yes. My son
No.
asked me for some.
It's quite delicious.
Oh my God.
Mm. Mm. It's like a Pinot Grigio.
Nice. I'll have to
You
try
sure
some.
you're not a 13-year-old straight male, Dave?
I was going to say, dude.
There's
You
one
sure?
bursting out of me. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
goodness. Well, I think that is pretty much the juxt of that story. Let's see if there's anything else I had in here that we would talk about. She said that was the conclusion of her interview, actually. She actually, in the course of the interview, says things like, she knows who she is, what she values, and she does not let others define her. But she's pretty remarkably centered in all this. I would get nervous in front of that woman. Did I do something wrong? And that's the whole point of the interview. You're wrong. You're a white supremacist. Defend yourself. as opposed to
Yes. That's the
her
game.
just saying, I don't know what you're talking about even. Stop your bullshit.
It's nice to be around people that aren't racked with guilt. So many people are racked with unearned guilt, and that's what she wants her to have. In essence, you're white and pretty. You should have unearned guilt, and she doesn't have it. And by the way, she's also quite a good actress. The only thing that I've actually seen her in was I think it was the first season of White Lotus. I mean, she was amazing. I had no idea that there was.
No, dude. She
What else?
is so good in that high school thing about drug addicts. What was that called? This is where she really broke out.
Was this
Please help me.
HBO? Was it Euphoria? Not that.
Euphoria.
I actually refuse to watch that. Refuse.
Why?
Because I have teenagers.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
People have told me it's disturbing beyond belief.
Well, okay. Well, let me just tell you, as somebody that works with that population, it was exquisitely accurate. Like,
Wow.
I can't.
Like, rarely do you see drug addiction portrayed that accurately.
Wow.
And Sydney was not a drug addict in this thing. She was sort of a popular kid at the high school, and her relationship with her sister gets very involved. But the acting was phenomenal. Really, all the kids,
Yeah.
but she stood out, I gotta say.
She's quite a good actress. Like, she has a way of doing drama. You know, the beauty of, did you guys watch White Lotus by chance?
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you know, it's beautifully shot, and the music, everything about it, I think is, I loved all 3 seasons. Actually, I know a lot of people didn't like the 3rd season, but you know, for her to play, that's like the toughest thing to play. Cause when you're doing something that's, you're like sexy, but also supposed to be funny, and it's kind of ironic, but not over the top. And you know, they're a family from LA, so she's supposed to be too cool for everything. But like, I just thought she's good. She's good.
You should watch Euphoria. It really is worth your time. It really is. It's,
your kids are young. You'll be okay.
Yeah. I mean, don't. Yeah, I'm not advising it for teenagers to watch because you're right, Jill. It's concerning.
I can't. I've heard it's like deeply disturbing. It's so accurate, and of course, my 15-year-old is like a moth to a flame with that stuff. She loves Zendaya, and I'm like, babe, please. You know, she's got access.
By the way, Zendaya's acting was phenomenal too.
She's an incredible actress.
I actually was sort of shocked at how accurately they portrayed the drug withdrawal symptoms and things. And Zendaya had seen it. That's all I know. She'd seen it somewhere because her physicality of it was just exactly spot on. Well, let me show you guys a tweet to end this on a more humorous note. It reads, "It took me 59 years, 2 failed marriages, endless bad dates, raising 2 kids, caring for both my parents, all the cancellations during COVID, and mostly menopause to reach this level of unbothered Sydney Sweeney seems to have been born with."
Wow.
I think that sums up the whole thing. And good for Sydney Sweeney. Good for her.
Jillian, how much of that do you think is like a media training thing to even put out a statement like that? That's pretty freaking well crafted. You think that's all coming out of her?
I think so. I do actually. You have to approve that stuff, but they can teach you how to channel your messaging and when to take a step back. They can train you in the Aikido of media. So I think she's got a great personality. She's incredibly intelligent. She's very talented. And then with a little bit of training, it's been harnessed into this genius moment.
That's that. Next up, Trump's speech.
You want me to handle this one?
Yes.
All right, I'll do the hardcore political thing. But actually, this story is in some sense not really about politics. It's about the thing that I think the 3 of us really focus on, perhaps more than politics, which is kind of media and free speech, because there's something super interesting here beyond the specifics. But the specifics are that Donald Trump is now threatening to sue the BBC over a documentary that they released around the January 6th events, where they selectively edited a portion of his speech that day when people were about to march to the Capitol. So let's first show you the portion of the speech that they edited, and then we will show you the unedited. So this is the edited version that was in the BBC documentary.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
All right, so that sounds pretty scary. We're going to march down there. I'll be with you. We're going to fight like hell. We're going to lose the country, blah, blah, blah. Note the line that they cut. Here's the unedited version.
It is up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol. And we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them. But I said, something's wrong here. Something's really wrong. Can't have happened. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. Our exciting adventures and boldest endeavors have not yet begun.
All right, so obviously the key part of what they cut out is we're going to go and cheer on our senators and congressmen. And what he's talking about are the senators and congressmen who he thought maybe weren't going to vote, weren't going to ratify the election. Now, putting aside everything related to election stuff for just a second, when I saw this story, obviously I was deeply unsurprised. Like, this is consistent with, from very fine people to COVID hoaxes and all the other stuff we always talk about. So I'm not surprised by any of that. I think what has actually surprised me here is that there is a massive reckoning now happening at the BBC, the CEO and multiple other executives. These are executives at the BBC, not just people that were directly involved with the film. They have now stepped down. Drew, I am shocked. We never get a mea culpa. We never get a buck stops with me, and we're actually kind of getting it. What is going on here?
I'm not sure it's the buck stops with me, because the same people and some of the people around them were saying, yeah, but we are objective at the BBC. We have no bias at the BBC. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, we made a mistake here, but we have no bias. This is the insanity of press right now, where they live in such an insulated culture where they don't see how biased they are. It's actually what fascinates me. What I want a documentary about is what's going on at CBS News. What's going on with Barry Weiss in there? Are they awakening? Are they fighting and incapable of changing? Is the cognitive dissonance so severe that people are just quitting? But I agree with you. There is reckoning happening for the first time, even though I don't really trust the reckoning. Let's put it that way.
Interestingly, so the CEO of BBC stepped down, but then she was interviewed right after on the street, and she goes, I've stepped down because the buck stops with me, but there is no systemic bias at the BBC.
Exactly.
I stepped down over the weekend because the buck stops with me. But I'd like to make one thing very clear. BBC News is not institutionally biased. That's why it's the world's most trusted news provider.
Why did you fail to deal with the mistakes that were made?
And see my teams. Thank you so much.
Do you think that the journalists are corrupt, like President Trump says? Do you think the journalists
our journalists aren't corrupt. Our journalists are hard-working people who strive for impartiality, and I will stand by their journalism.
Is there institutional bias at the BBC?
There is no institutional bias. Mistakes are made, but there's no institutional bias.
That's to your point. So it's sort of absurd because your stepping down proves the systemic bias, because you're up here, right? So all the documentary people are somewhere over here doing their thing. You would never step down unless the bias had reached over to your sort of your world, right? You are the head of the thing. If it wasn't systemic, you would just fire the director of the film and say, boy, you really duped us. What do you think, Jillian?
Two things. One, I've seen the video of the British journalist who unveils this, right? And to be honest, those two bites, I didn't perceive them to be that close together. So I think this is worse than it appears. He fast forwarded when Trump says we're going to go down, we're going to celebrate Congress, blah, blah, blah. And there's like he plays fast forward all the way. It goes on for like 30 seconds of fast forwarding and we fight like hell, which is totally unrelated to what he was saying in the previous part. They weren't even, from what I took away from it, they weren't even that close together.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
So I wish we could, maybe the team can find it and pop it in here. It's a British journalist, and he literally fast forwards, and it seems like it goes on for quite a minute there to that part of the speech. They're far apart.
It wasn't until nearly an hour later that he then said the second part of the BBC's version.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we fight. We fight like hell.
Having said that, what I also find alarming is that the BBC is not privately owned. This is government funded with tax dollars. So it's literal propaganda. And I give my mother-in-law credit for this, who is very conservative. And she goes, this is election interference. This is another government interfering in our elections. And I really thought about it for a minute. This isn't China. This isn't Russia. This is the UK utilizing a government-funded news organization to create propaganda that arguably would have put Trump in jail, and he would not have been our president. Like, there's some truth to that. It's pretty upsetting, actually.
Well, think about it this way. Was it, 1 day later, 2 days later, that Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever, I'm not sure which other sites, all nuked him at the same time?
That's right.
He was the sitting president of the United States. And you definitely can argue, because of the way that probably, I can't confirm this off the top of my head, but probably from the coverage that CNN and other organizations gave it, that gave them enough of a room to do it. And, interestingly, a couple of years ago, when you remember when Alex Jones got kicked off of everything, like within 24 hours, I happened to have Peter Thiel at my house that day to do the show. And we didn't discuss this on air, but I know now he would be fine with me talking about it. But I asked him off camera, I said, what do you think happened here? And what he said is they're all equal cowards in essence. So it's not that it's coordination, like the head of CBS calls the head of Twitter and that they all get on the phone, but everyone's waiting for the first mover. And when the first mover moves, then everyone else moves. So it's not as if Jack Dorsey at the time, Twitter CEO, got on the phone with Susan Wojcicki over at YouTube and said, let's all do this in like the grand conspiracy sense. But
I don't believe it.
Wait.
I don't believe it, D.
That's
you
interesting.
You got called by Elon Musk to expose the Twitter files. That was a coordinated effort by the Biden administration to silence dissenters. You don't think this is coordinated?
That was a different phase in all this.
Yes. That was a different
game plan. Playbook. Same playbook.
Well, so that's a fair point, Jillian. So my guess is, well, first off, it was a slightly different phase in all of it, but also my guess is multiple things happen in different ways throughout. It's sort of like what we've all talked about with COVID all the time, that, kind of everyone was over their skis. They're making it up along the way and some version of that. So I think it was probably some of that. Elon finds out all of this information. The administration kind of admits they've been coordinating with big tech. Were calls made, were dinners had in DC, but does it prove like the grand conspiracy of someone drawing it all out here and we've got it perfectly? Probably not. It's just like I don't even, what would you call that, Drew? It's just like a coordinated mess or something.
It's a hysteria. It's a groupthink. It's and it's news is highly prone to this. No, you don't agree?
I don't
agree.
So you think on the Trump one where they nuked him all on the same day, you think it was like...
Here's, you guys,
you might be right. You might be right. Peter may not be right on this.
I hate this, by the way, because it just makes you look like a lunatic. But unfortunately, I just don't believe this. And I don't know if you've ever heard Victor Davis Hanson run through this litany of the ways in which they went after Trump and his family. And it's unprecedented. It was like they went after him 35 times and they took him off of this, and then they sued him, and then they did this, and then they said that, and then they manufactured this. And then when they didn't get him, they tried to shoot him in the head. I'm sorry, guys. This does seem like a playbook. And the first is discredit them. And, you had Kennedy eats dogs in Newsweek. You had Trump has young Russian prostitutes pee on him in the Steele dossier. Like, what is the most vile? You eat dogs and young minors are peeing on you. Like, we try all that stuff. It doesn't work. Okay, now we're going to litigate you into the ground. We're going to drown you in debt. We're going to bankrupt you. Hold on. No, we're going to debank you. Now you're getting debanked. Wait, that didn't work. We've tried A, B, C, D. We're all the way to Z. Bullet in the head. I know I sound crazy.
No, you don't. But,
no, you don't.
But listen, I have a tendency to call upon the words of Abraham Lincoln when I'm looking for wisdom in a historical moment. And he had a famous speech called the Frame House speech. You guys familiar with this speech at all?
I don't think so.
No.
It was essentially showing how he describes how, and he names these first names of people that happen to be the first names of all the political operatives in the Democratic Party at the time. And he says, and magically this log fits with this log, and then this mortise fit with that mortise. And what he was building a case for was saying that these guys all conspired to have a Dred Scott II. Right. He was very concerned that there was going to be a national Dred Scott decision. These people, no doubt, were moving in that direction. but they could not have possibly coordinated it together. And yet it really looked like they were building a frame house together to build this case. They were building a case. But, the case, it doesn't, and he goes on to say, it kind of doesn't matter because we're going to get in the same place anyway. And it's all got to stop, which brings me to my question. Why isn't Trump suing these people? He should go ahead with the suit.
Well, first, let me just to maybe split the difference on what you guys are saying here. I would say the one thing is that there's a difference between what you're probably laying out correctly, Jillian, which is that the government with its agencies were doing a series of things to Trump and Bobby Kennedy and all these people. That's one way that it was all happening. The other thing as to getting him off all the social media things, those are separate companies. So it's not to say the government didn't call them all up or somebody say something. I'm not saying that didn't happen, but it's a slightly different thing than just going to government agencies that you are in charge of and saying, here's how we're going to take him out this way, that way, the other way. So, but none of us know the answer to that. So everyone watching.
By the way, none of us are calling Jillian wrong, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Jillian's
I'm
wrong.
I would love to be wrong because this stuff keeps me up at night. And as much as I we don't want to go down these rabbit holes, there's always something there. And the last thing I'll say is, like, what about those FBI agents that silenced the Hunter Biden laptop story? We know for a fact that Bill Gates funded, this is, again, the COVID story, but the fact that Bill Gates funded this thing called the Virality Project out of Stanford. This landed on Biden's desk, and it was a directive to silence all dissenters online with regard to the vaccine. And they did it. They did it. The government went through from private industry, influencing the government to more private industry, all the social media networks to silence. Like, that to me
crazy.
Is
why that isn't brought up every day of the week in every political discussion. I don't know, because that is one of the most astonishing behaviors of the U.S. government since its inception.
By the way, Jillian, you're making a great point on those 51 intelligence people. So the question is, did someone call them and say, we are going to do this? Or did they sort of independently or through friendships or relationships, when they realized what was happening and they all really wanted to take out Donald Trump, did they all kind of come to it through that's exactly what you're laying out there with the Lincoln story, right? That these things can sort of organically build up this way as opposed to the top-down thing. And again, both may be true, and it also might be right.
Yeah.
It may not matter. It may not matter. But Jillian, nobody thinks you're crazy. A little kooky, a little out there.
Okay.
So,
Doc, are you doing government shutdown here?
Is the government back? Is the government back? No, Jillian, you're up.
Oh, I'm doing the government shutdown.
What do you want to do? What do you want to do? It's up to you.
I actually want to talk about.
Or you can jump to see
COP
30.
I want to talk about COP 30. Okay. Yeah. So this is a climate change summit in Brazil. Long story short, Newsom runs over there to act like he's the president of the United States. While he's over there, he slams the president of the United States. He says, America's a disaster. We've completely abandoned concerns over climate change. And he's the leader, and he's taking charge in California. And before we address all of that, I want you to see a clip here. So let's show it.
California has two things: a reliable partner in relationship to this space. I cannot say that for the United States of America, particularly as it relates to the current occupant in the White House. Quite the contrary. It's not about electric power. This is about economic power. And we in the state of California are not going to cede that race to China. We're going to compete.
What is he talking about? He's destroyed infrastructure in California.
He's destroyed the environment in California.
Yeah.
So listen, I don't want to get into climate change. I've heard people say, okay, it's overblown. It's not overblown. Regardless, we can all agree that there's an environmental pollution problem. The air, the water. I think we can all agree on that.
Jill, really important that the environmentalism is a very important thing. It has been usurped by this one thing, this CO2 concern, and the money and power that's gone into that is distorting everything. But you are so right. Environmentalism is a very important thing.
Well, so here's what I want to say. I looked up how much CO2 gets released from one California wildfire, and it's
Oh, yeah, I know.
127 million metric
Yes,
tons on
that's right.
average. So hear me out, right? This guy goes, he's like, oh man, climate change and these friggin' wildfires. And it's like, dude, everybody knows that California has suffered from the Santa Ana winds since the earth was formed. Like the Chumash Indians in California knew this and they would do control burns in advance. Like this man did nothing to prevent this from happening over and over and over again. I could give you just a few pieces of legislation. Bill AB 2330 passed all bodies of legislation in California, landed on his desk for forestry management. He vetoed it. Proposition 1 in 2014 to build 12 new reservoirs. They allotted several $1 million. Not one reservoir was built. It took 45 minutes for someone to arrive on the scene to put out that fire. They defunded the fire department by $20 million. He could have pre-positioned firefighters all over Southern California, knowing this was coming.
You're killing me.
But it goes on and on and on. So one more thing. It's not just the amount of CO2 that goes into the air from these fires that is like unleashing. Doc, you speak on this best. I'm going to turn it over to you in a second. But before I do, I want to ask you this. I'll never forget that Dr. William Lee called me and he's like, you need to get out of California right now. I see you're there. You're with your mom. It's the holidays. Get out now. The stuff that's being released into that environment is like 9/11 dust. This is not, CO2 and smoke. So, Doc, can you talk about what the hell actually happens when this bastard? I'm doing it again.
So,
Drew, you got to channel your Corolla right now.
When the state burns down over and over and over again. Can we talk about the harms of that, please? Sir, help me.
I can't meaningfully because we don't fully know yet, but there are grave concerns that we are going to see lung disease, we are going to see cancers, we're going to see problems. And I feel like an idiot for not bailing out of town when I was across the Arroyo from the Pasadena fires, near Altadena fires.
Yeah.
And I breathed all that stuff. In fact, I went up to examine what was going on in the middle of all that. And I did not put my thinking cap on, as we used to say. And so I'm very, very, very concerned about what we're going to see here. Obviously, the easy stuff, the emphysema and the chronic bronchitis and stuff, for sure. But the more pernicious problems, like you say, like a 9/11 style series of problems down the road, I think are ahead for us. But to your point, I used to look up at the San Gabriel Mountains when I was in high school, and it was crisscrossed with fire breaks.
Yes.
Just year round. They were up there working on it with bulldozers, and they were always managing the fire. And the first thing that happened was it got interrupted because the migration of a field mouse was being affected by the fire breaks. And that was the first shot that led to a series of many other legislations that made it impossible to do the forestry management. And to fund it, they're not going to do it. The guy that pushed through, there's a billionaire that pushed through that 2030 legislation in California where we were going to have to all be in electric vehicles by 2030 or something. Yep. I had him on a news program. I was interviewing him. I go, why aren't you fighting for the forestry management? Literally 20 years of everybody in an electric vehicle is undone by one fire season. What are you doing? Are you really concerned about CO2, or you just want to force your will on people? And by the way, why aren't we talking about CO2 capture stuff? Why don't we figure on that if you're really worried about CO2?
Right. Yeah.
Well, what's going on in Brazil right now, think about this. They destroyed giant strips in the Amazon to be able to build a 4-lane highway to manage this event. By the way, which is being populated by people flying in on their private jets. What is going on?
Right.
And 80% of the people surrounding the Brazilian event do not have sewage. Do you want to help them with their plumbing, or do you want to insist that they go net zero over the next 20 years? So 100 years from now, we don't have a 0.5 degree change in the Earth's atmosphere, which we're not even sure we can control anyway.
Right.
It's disgusting. It really is so irrational, and it is encumbered now by money. Money is everywhere, and I'm hearing that the UN is really bringing a lot of African nations on board in these efforts because they're funding them up so profound. There's so much money going to them that they're saying, yeah, yes, of course, we'll cooperate. And the money never goes to anything except grift.
So I'll give you guys a couple things here. So first off, there's another clip from Gavin's appearance down there where he quite literally blames the Palisades fire on climate change. Of course, we know that the reservoirs were empty. That has nothing to do with climate change. Okay, right. So he's just an extraordinary liar. I don't think we have to blame. We don't have to kind of drive that point much further. Interestingly, you guys know I was in Australia over the last couple of weeks, and I was shocked how much emphasis there still is on worldwide climate accords. They were all talking about that, and they could not believe at a couple of the events that I did when I was like, guys, I have to tell you, from an American perspective, we just don't care about this stuff anymore. It's not to say we don't care about the environment. Of course we do. Yep. We all want clean air and clean water and fertile soil and blah, blah, blah. But we don't care about these global initiatives that really it means the U.S. has to pay and there's no enforcement mechanisms and blah, blah, blah. But let me personalize this in a different way for a second, because Drew, it was before I knew you, unfortunately, Jillian, but Drew used to come over during COVID. I would have these great illegal parties and
that's right.
I lived in an absolutely beautiful house that I thought we were going to live in for the rest of our lives. It was beautiful new construction in the Encino Hills. And I remember there was a fire at one point, and I only lived there for a year before I couldn't take, Cali anymore because of COVID. But I remember there was one of the fires, and you'd get this obviously in the valley every now and again, and the sky would kind of turn orange, and you'd get that little bit of that smell, and you'd see some embers and things. And I remember being on my roof with a hose, thinking, let me just do a little something up here so that, because it's all about the embers catching, some brush on your roof. And as I was doing it, I swear to you, and this is before I decided to leave, because of all the COVID stuff. So this was probably that summer of 21, I guess that was. I remember thinking, if my house caught fire right now, I don't trust that we have the right people here to fix any of this. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because then if you just extrapolate that to the rest of the ways that we all know COVID, Cali and LA particularly, has kind of crumbled, whether it's crime or drugs or everything else, that's what he has caused. That's Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom destroyed San Francisco. San Francisco was one of the most beautiful places in the entire country. It was so prosperous next to Silicon Valley, the hills, the culture that was there. Like, it was so great. He destroyed it. And then what happens? Because Cali's a one-party state, he then becomes governor. And what happens when he becomes governor? I think about 900,000 people have fled since COVID. So you don't have to believe any of the things we're saying here, but the proof is in the pudding. Where are people going to and where are they leaving from? And you just have to ask the U-Haul guys who can't get trucks to drive back to Cali anymore.
That is spot on. I actually just did a little homework on this. 1.5 million citizens, American citizens, relocated from California to blue states from 2020 to 24. But, when he went on Sean Ryan and he's like, that's bullshit. We have more people moving in.
This is his new thing.
I can't. Oh my God. And the people that came in are from other countries. Roughly 1 million international people moving to California.
Do you guys know anyone? I mean, Drew, you're still there. Do you know anyone that has moved to Los Angeles in the last 4 years?
No.
Can I tell you?
Fleeing or thinking about fleeing.
Literally right before we started the show today, you guys know my associate producer, Joseph. He was just telling me that at the pizza place he goes to here, he was wearing a Rubin Report shirt yesterday. And the guy behind the counter said to him that he used to live in LA and he moved to Miami partly because of me. Like that, I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying, like, something so fundamental happened to the country with this divide that I still don't even think we even realize how divided it is in that sense. You shift that many people and what it's going to do to the place where they go on a positive note and what it's going to do on a negative note to the place that they flee. You don't figure that out overnight.
I just remember when Musk left California. I mean, I was being interviewed, I think I think it might have been on Newsom or something, and he just goes, effective immediately, I'm moving all my businesses out of California, effective immediately, and he just moved out, and that was it.
And Newsom applauded. He was like, "That's great." Remember that? I wish I remember the exact quote. He was basically like, "Good riddance," something like that.
Oh my
It's
god.
a weird. This is a weird thing. I don't know what this is. Same thing with AOC in Long Island City. Remember when Amazon wanted to move in there? People were like, "Oh, this is gonna be the best thing for the city." She wouldn't let him in.
I think they said that was going to be 40,000 jobs.
High-paying jobs.
My parents who still live in the house that I grew up in as a child, they were thrilled because it was only about 10 miles from there, and they were like, "Oh, the house prices are going to go up. There's going to be all these new people, blah blah." And
Oh my god.
So I don't know what that is, that they don't understand how societies work or economies work. It's the weirdest damn thing.
somehow his winery stayed open during COVID. Plumpjack did all right.
Oh, yeah.
Funded by, I think Getty's helped him get on his feet with that. I mean, despite the fact that he was a poor child of color growing up. I mean, do we have time for one more, or are we good? Are we done?
Let's do it. What do you got?
Can I do one more? Because this really bothers me. Scott Wiener, literally the guy is the ultimate. I promised myself I would not do it. Scott Wiener is going after Nancy Pelosi's seat. Okay, now who here is familiar with Scott Wiener?
Wait. That's not Anthony Wiener. It's Scott Wiener. It's a different Wiener.
Different Wiener, but also wants to chop wieners off.
Yeah.
Did you see the clip of the woman who was kicked out of Gold's Gym confronting Wiener? Guys, can you see if you can find this clip?
Tish Hyman. Tish Hyman is her name.
As a lesbian woman who was attacked in the women's locker room at Gold's Gym this week by a self-identifying trans woman with a documented history of domestic violence, I'm deeply concerned about women's safety in female-only spaces. What would you say to women who are seeking assurance that their safety will be protected from men who, by California law, can self-ID as women in women-only spaces, sir? Please tell me.
Yeah, so we want, everyone to be safe. And we also know that, we have trans people, both men and women, who are men and women. And so, so if you're trans women are women.
Senator, you've done great things with the bills you've passed with the housing. I've read a lot of your bills, and like you said, there are bills that need to be opened up, and I'm telling you now, millions of women across America are being harassed and sexually assaulted in locker rooms. I'm a lesbian black woman. I'm not transphobic. I'm not homophobic. And I do respect a lot of the things you've done. But I do see a lot of these bills that you've passed that are dangerous for women and young children. And I understand that you're trying to be on a level playing field. And I'm here to represent my community because I hear a lot of things about my community in these bills. And I'm telling you as a woman, first and foremost, that this is dangerous, and we need your help because you're in the office. You're going to go in the Pinsky spot. I want to support you. I have millions of people behind me watching this right now, and we want to know: are you going to protect women, not trans women? Women, trans women are different things. Women. Listen, we need to protect women's safety. I was assaulted. I was assaulted. No, they are not. They are men. I was assaulted by men. He broke his wife's jaw so bad she needed reconstructive surgery. I'm a lesbian. I'm not transphobic, and I'm black. So if there's another black woman in here who wants to tell me how they feel, please join in. But all of you are not. And I don't know who you are or what you are, but I'm a lesbian, and I'm telling you right now, men are harassing women in the locker room.
She's the best. I'm going to interview her soon on my show.
Oh, are you? Good.
Yeah.
Oh my
I
God.
love her.
Confronting Wiener about biological males in women's spaces. So I had to do a little research on this for the New York Post. And it turns out that in California, thanks to Wiener and Newsom, men en masse, rapists, in fact, are going into California prisons for women simply by uttering the words, "I identify as female." And she confronts Wiener on this. This bastard, I did it again.
Speaking of Wiener, I've on the record saying that the way they need to do with these bathrooms is just a Wiener with a no parking sign over it, and that's just how we determine who goes in these restrooms and who goes in these locker rooms.
Guys,
no
for the record, I did watch Orange Is the New Black on Netflix, and I'm not sure it's much better for anyone being in a women's prison. All right. Those
I love that show, by the way.
No, it was a great show. It was a great show.
I don't disagree with you, but all all jokes
Yes.
aside,
Yes.
women are being raped, women are
Yeah,
being
it's insane.
impregnated. And not only that, this guy is also responsible for 2 pieces of legislation that are deeply upsetting. I don't know if we've talked about this before. One is a piece of legislation that has stopped the cops from intervening with sex workers on the street. They were
That's Santa
loitering laws.
Monica's, and minors even.
The-
Minor sex workers.
There it is.
Yeah.
So what has
Yeah.
happened is that kids who've fallen through the cracks of a grossly underfunded foster care system are being trafficked into sex work on the streets by gangs, and the cops can't do anything about it thanks to Wiener. I'm actually not joking. And one more that really upset me and is one of the top reasons I left California. I can't remember if it was 2020 or 21. He passed a law that said if an adult who is within 10 years of age of a minor has sex with them or engages in a sexual act with this minor, the judge can determine whether or not they have to register as a sex offender. And he said it was for gay rights, because if a 24-year-old man has sex with a 14-year-old girl, he didn't have to register as a sex offender, or I guess the judge could determine whether he had to or not, and it wasn't fair to the gays. How about you just make it illegal for 24-year-olds to have sex with 14-year-olds? What about that?
It's these progressive ideas that are built on ideological frameworks that are divorced from human reality are running amok of reality. It's like all running together now. The same people who want to defend women's rights are now undermining women's rights.
Right.
Here we are.
Yeah, well, the same people that wanted to defend gay rights are now the most anti-gay. I mean, that's what the whole trans movement is, just radically anti-gay. If I'm not mistaken, but someone can definitely correct me on this, or actually I'll have Joseph Google it while I'm saying it. Will fact check me live. I think he also tried to pass a bill that was going to decriminalize if you intentionally gave someone AIDS or something like that. We can double check on that one.
I believe he's also was involved in a lot of the laws that make it impossible to help homeless people. I believe that's true.
Man, the road to hell is I don't know that his intentions are good, but it really is road to hell is paved with good intentions.
They're not good. And last thought on this is every time you think you've toppled some sort of monster, like, what was it? Who's Kim Jong-un's dad again? What was it? Who's the guy?
Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong.
The dad guy. That
Bob.
The dad gets toppled and he comes in. Remember Uday Hussein? He was supposed to be worse than his father. Like you get rid of Assad, who's a savage and an animal, and then the guy that comes up under him is arguably like, we got rid of Pelosi and everybody made jokes and they sang, ding dong, the witch is dead. But I would never do that because I'm civilized and mature. But, we saw that happen. And now look what you're going to get. You're going to get Wiener. And I promise you, Wiener is so much worse than Pelosi.
So my guys are nodding with me. So I was right about the AIDS thing. And what did it pass? And it actually passed. So people can Google that for themselves so that he decriminalized it. I mean, imagine that knowingly.
Wow.
California is a Sodom and Gomorrah. But not because of the lack of moral structure, but because of this insistence on progressive legislative action that is harming people. It's really so sad.
2 out of the 3 of us got the hell out of there. Really makes you wonder about the other one.
It makes me wonder about myself, but it makes me more committed to staying. Somebody's got to give you a report from the inside.
Oh, gosh.
What is it really like in California?
Oh, my gosh, boss, don't martyr yourself to this.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Drew, you're going to be doing this show one day from a burning down house with just utter chaos everywhere going, well, I stayed. Like, you're not winning any points.
Unfortunately, this could easily come true. We'll be playing this clip back in 2 years, and I'll be
I hope
it could happen.
I
It
hope
could easily
not.
happen.
Well, I appreciate this therapy session.
Yeah, exactly. I always feel better after the show. I had a very long day today. I did like 5 or 6 interviews and 2 shows, but I always feel better after this. So
I feel stirred, guys. I feel agitated.
Yeah.
I don't always feel better. I feel like, oh my God, I shouldn't be talking about these things.
I do this to you all the time. Every single time you talk to me, I ruin your day. Oh, I'm going to take a Xanax or something before the next one of these.
You don't ruin my day. You just get me riled up. And I'm not sure that's good for my aging process.
You know what we should do? We should tell Rachel, our producer, that at the end of the show, we'll always have an exit title. Today's title could be Sorry, Drew. Or good luck with that,
Yes.
Drew.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Something
Sorry,
like
Drew.
yeah, good luck. Yeah, sorry you're stuck in California.
Sorry, Drew. Yeah, because that feels.
I don't know, but there was a
authentic.
part of me 3 or 4 years ago thought it's just worth fighting for this state. It's such a beautiful, wonderful place. It's done so much for me. It's worth fighting for. I don't think there's a fight to be had. That's
I
the
was going to say,
problem.
don't you remember what I just told you from my karate days
Thanks,
at
Jillian.
13?
Thanks, Jillian.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll get my
can't
head
win,
chopped off. I got
Don't
it.
play. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, listen, it's a beautiful day here in Miami. It's totally crime-free. There's not any humidity in the air. The sun is shining. I'm going to play basketball.
Well done.